Like any parent, I try to instill a lesson with my daughters that it's okay to make mistakes. But when we do, we've got to be strong enough to accept them, smart enough to learn from them, and wise enough not to repeat them. As legislators, we obviously aren't immune from making mistakes ourselves. But it seems that there are those in this chamber, and indeed throughout Lansing, that are either unwilling or unable to follow the same lessons we've learned from our parents long ago. Take, for example, the news yesterday that Michigan is only one of 2 states being singled out for failing to invest even the bare minimum in funding for higher education that is considered acceptable by the federal government. One of 2 states, just Michigan and Alabama. That dubious distinction is symbolic of the mistakes that have allowed our state to fall so far behind the rest of the nation. It will result in over $4 million in federal aid being cut. Aid meant to provide low-income students in our state with financial aid and academic counseling. Aid that they will no longer be getting because of the decisions made right here in this chamber. Now, this isn't something that happened overnight, but it's one we are told must be corrected and should have been corrected long ago. Instead, our Republican leadership chose to continue to make the same mistakes that led us down this misguided path in the past. Instead of focusing on improving our higher education system, you're passing unnecessary and unhelpful legislation that micromanages our universities and graduate research assistants. Ironically, there was a Resolution 129 today honoring those same grad students whose rights you took away last week. Instead of applauding and investing in the world-class research being undertaken by our universities, you're threatening to further cut funding for not following politically motivated reporting requirements. And instead of finding ways to make college more affordable and accessible for our students, you're making Michigan a national embarrassment when it comes to the commitment our state makes to our public universities. I think I speak for parents and students across Michigan when I say enough is enough. It is time for the politics to end and for us to put real plans on the table. My caucus and I have put a plan before you that would correct many of those mistakes and immediately show the world Michigan's commitment to higher education is second to none. The Michigan 2020 plan would provide all Michigan high school graduates with the opportunity to have the cost of their college education paid for in its entirety. It is a plan that says Michigan believes in its future and values our young people by creating the most educated and highly skilled workforce in the nation. And best of all, it wouldn't raise taxes 1 cent on Michigan's families. Instead, we can pay for it entirely by eliminating ineffective tax loopholes that Michigan gives out each and every year. If we cut just 5% of the $35 billion in business tax credits we blindly hand out every year, we could fully fund this program. And to the so-called conservative majority, although you talk a lot about fiscal responsibility, you act very much like tax and spend Republicans. Just ask our seniors or the working poor. How can you look at $35 billion in loopholes and say you can't find 5% savings, especially when it's for economic development? Because education is economic development. This plan actually provides you an opportunity to reclaim your conservative principles by helping you find a mere 5% savings out of $35 billion. Is it too tough of a task to ask of you? Let's find out. By passing this plan, we can send the message together that we're no longer going to let the mistakes of our past paralyze our progress, that Michigan is ready to be a leader once again. We have to stop saying we can't do something. We have to say we can, and we must do it. Thank you, and I ask that my remarks be printed in the Journal.